You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin.
I woke up to the sound of glass crunching under my feet. The coffee mug, the one Vanessa bought me on our second date, was shattered, pieces scattered across the kitchen floor. My head felt thick, heavy, like I'd been hit by a truck, but it was the sight on my phone that made my stomach drop. A viral Instagram reel. Vanessa, slow dancing with her ex, Trent, at some Hawaiian luau. Her red dress, the one I loved on her, twirled in the video, and her ankle tattoo was unmistakable. The one I always made fun of her for, saying it looked like it belonged on a high schooler. Her engagement ring gleamed in the light. This couldn't be real. I stared at the screen, my thumb frozen over the play button, trying to make sense of it. Vanessa was supposed to be at her cousin's bachelorette weekend in Santa Barbara. I hadn't heard from her in 3 days. No texts, no calls, not even a message saying, "Hey, I'm busy," or "I'm okay." I'd already called the hospitals. I called her family. Nothing. I felt a tightness in my chest, something that felt too familiar. Like when you wake up from a nightmare and know it's not just a bad dream. It's reality. I blinked away the haze and watched the video again. I wasn't imagining it. Vanessa was in Maui, in Trent's arms, and the caption underneath the video hit me like a punch. Back in Maui with Trent? This reunion is everything. Before I could process it, the door swung open. Brielle, Vanessa's sister, stood in the doorway, eyes wide and locked on my phone. She didn't say anything at first, just stared. Then, her voice barely a whisper, she asked, "Is that Vanessa?" I nodded. "Yeah." She shook her head, stepping closer. "What the hell is going on?" "She's not at her cousin's bachelorette weekend," I muttered. "She's in Hawaii. With him." Brielle's face went pale. She pulled out her phone, scrolling, probably hoping for a different answer, but it was the same. That damn video. She looked at me, eyes filled with confusion and anger. "No one in the family knew she was going to Hawaii, Kyle. No one." I could feel my hands shake. I wasn't sure if it was the adrenaline or the hurt. "I'm done," I said, barely able to get the words out. "I'm done." The video played again, her face smiling, laughing, the kind of smile I used to think was just for me. I had so many questions, but one comment stuck out. It felt like it was aimed straight at me. "Back in Maui with Trent? This reunion is everything." I turned away, not wanting Brielle to see how badly I was breaking. I didn't know what to do with my hands, so I shoved them in my pockets and stared at the broken mug on the floor. Brielle's eyes kept darting between me and the phone in my hand, and I could tell she was thinking the same thing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. I took a deep breath. I need to fix this. Fast. Brielle didn't argue. She just nodded and gave me a weak, stunned smile before her face hardened. She'd always been the one who kept a level head when things went sideways. "What do you need?" I moved to the kitchen counter, grabbed my wallet and pulled out my bank card. First thing, I'm unlinking my accounts from hers. She's not touching my money anymore. I dialed the bank, my voice already a little tight. The customer service rep was polite, but I could barely focus on the details she was giving me. The words fraud prevention and suspicious activity swam around in my head as I arranged to unhook everything tied to Vanessa's name. As soon as I hung up, I felt a rush of something. Maybe relief, maybe just control. Like I could actually stop whatever was happening, even if I wasn't sure how yet. Next, I texted Drew. He'd been my friend since college and, for better or worse, I knew he could give me the cold, hard truth. It didn't take long for him to call back. "Dude," he said, voice low, a mix of sympathy and practicality. "You're probably not going to get much back from the wedding stuff. Deposits are already sunk." "Tell me something I don't know," I muttered, rubbing the back of my neck. "I'm being real with you, Kyle," he said, clearly reading my frustration. "You can get the ring back. If you act quick, maybe some vendor refunds. But they'll hit you with cancellation fees for everything else." I gritted my teeth. The ring. The one thing that wasn't tainted by her lies. I wasn't letting that go. Okay, so, ring refunds. Got it. I could almost feel Drew's shrug on the other end. Yeah, but don't get your hopes up too high. Cancel the honeymoon bookings while you're at it. I scribbled everything down on a list, my pen moving fast, each action a small step toward something I could control. My head was pounding, but there was a kind of clarity to the chaos now. I had a job to do. Thanks, man, I said, and we hung up. Brielle was still standing there, her arms folded tight across her chest, looking like she hadn't blinked in a while. Trent's been texting Vanessa again. For months, she finally said, voice soft but sharp with hurt. I felt my stomach twist. How do you know? She hesitated, but then just said it. I've seen the messages. She kept telling me she wasn't talking to him. But I knew. I always knew. I stared at the list in front of me. What the hell did I even do with this? It wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't about the money. It was about everything she lied to me about. I couldn't fix any of it. But I could make damn sure she didn't get away with it. I'm done calling her, I said. Brielle didn't say anything, but I could feel her watching me. I'm done trying to reach her. I've got to focus. I've got to take back what I can. Yeah, she said quietly. It's all falling apart, but you're doing the right thing. I nodded, but inside, everything felt raw. Vanessa had taken so much from me, and now I had to rebuild everything from scratch. But I couldn't let myself slip back into the same fog I'd been in before. This time I needed a plan, a strategy. I looked at Brielle, her face still pale, but her eyes hard. I'll handle the vendors. I'll cancel the bookings. You think you can get in touch with anyone else in the family? Anyone who might know more about this? She nodded slowly. I'll see what I can find out. I'll call her mom too. She'll want to know what's going on. I didn't know if I could take much more of her family right now, but I appreciated Brielle stepping up. With that, I turned away, my fingers clenched around the pen like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. There was no way I was letting Vanessa or anyone else keep me spinning in this mess. Time to take control. Around midnight, the phone finally rang. My stomach twisted when I saw Vanessa's name flash on the screen. I almost didn't pick up. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail to make her stew for a while, but I didn't. I hit answer, pressed the phone to my ear, and braced myself. The first thing I heard was laughter, distant, echoing, like she was at some crowded bar. The sound of ocean waves crashing against something. She was drunk. I could feel it in the way she breathed when she finally said my name. Hey, she slurred, her voice thick, like she was trying to keep it light. Can't a girl have some space? The audacity. That was my first thought. The fucking audacity. My blood was already boiling, but I kept my voice steady. I wasn't going to let her see how much she was getting to me. Not yet. You've had 3 days of space, Vanessa. Where the hell have you been? She laughed again, but this time there was a defensive edge to it. I'm on vacation, Kyle. Relax. It's not like I'm dead. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Not dead, right? That's exactly how she acted. Like I was the one overreacting. I could feel my grip tightening on the phone. You're in Maui. You were supposed to be in Santa Barbara. Why didn't you tell me about the trip? She hesitated. I heard the shift in her tone, like she was scrambling for an explanation. It was a surprise. Lexi arranged it. I wasn't planning on telling you about it because I just needed a break. Okay? Lexi set this up? I repeated, my pulse racing. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it yet. Why's Trent there? There was a long pause, just enough to let me stew in the unanswered question. Then she said, he just showed up. Her voice was tight, but she kept pushing through. It's not a big deal, Kyle. Seriously. He's just here for a little bit. No biggie. I squeezed my eyes shut. No biggie? Trent is your ex, Vanessa. You're telling me he just showed up to a surprise trip you didn't even tell me about? And you're acting like it's normal? She groaned on the other end of the line, clearly irritated by my questioning. We're not even... She cut herself off, then muttered, fine, I'll be honest. We're sort of talking again. But it's not what you think, okay? It's not a big deal. Just sort of talking. The words landed like a punch in my gut. You're kidding me, right? I snapped, my voice rising. You're sort of talking with your ex in Hawaii, while I'm back here calling hospitals and worrying about you? I didn't plan for this to happen. Okay? She said, sounding more defensive by the second. Can't you just trust me for once? Trust her? My head felt like it was going to explode. I had trusted her with everything. My time, my love, my future. And this was what I got in return. I tried to keep my tone even, but it was hard. No, Vanessa. I can't. Not after all of this. Not after this. There was a long pause. Her silence was deafening. The waves in the background seemed to mock me as they rolled against the shore. I need you to come home and explain yourself, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, as if I were trying to hold myself together. But I need you to be honest for once. No more excuses, no more lies. She huffed. You're really doing this, huh? I don't have to explain myself to you, Kyle. I need space and you're not giving it to me. If you can't handle that, then what? I interrupted, my heart pounding. You want me to just sit here while you do whatever the hell you want? You're playing games, Vanessa, and I'm done. Her voice shifted then, almost like she wasn't even mad anymore, just resigned. Fine, guess I'll see you when I see you. That was it. That was the moment. She'd said it like it didn't matter to her, like she was already gone. My chest tightened, my throat closed up, but I didn't hesitate. Don't come home unless you're ready to explain everything. And with that, I hung up. The sound of the line going dead in my ear echoed in my head. I stayed there, holding the phone in my hand, staring at the screen like I could will her back on the other end. But she wasn't coming back. I sat down on the couch, my mind racing. The final straw had broken. This was no longer about salvaging a relationship. This was about me, about what I was going to do next. The wedding? It was over. Vanessa? She was gone. And whatever future I thought we had, it was shattered. The first thing I did after hanging up with Vanessa was pull out my phone and call the wedding planner. I wasn't sure what I expected. Maybe for her to tell me I was overreacting, that we could work it out. But no. She picked up, and when I said I needed to cancel everything, there was no hesitation in her voice. Oh my God, she said, like the words were slipping out of her before she could stop them. Kyle, she cleared her throat. Of course I can handle that. We'll just need to go over the details. Cancel everything. I cut her off. I'm not going through with the wedding. You'll have to figure out the vendor stuff. She went quiet for a moment. I could almost hear her flipping through pages in her head, trying to think of a way to make this less of a disaster. Okay, I'll start with the vendors. The cancellation fees will be steep, though. Over $30,000 at least. I squeezed my eyes shut. $30,000. That was more money than I'd ever spent on anything in my life. But at least that was one thing I could count on. The money was gone. The wedding was gone. The only thing left was to decide how to make this loss mean something. I want to change the reception, I said, the idea solidifying in my mind. Instead of a wedding, I want to turn it into a charity dinner. For the animal shelter Vanessa used to volunteer at. There was a long pause on her end. A charity dinner? Yeah, something good. It's better than just throwing the whole thing away. She didn't ask questions, just agreed. She'd seen this before, I guess. People backing out of weddings, finding a way to make the mess of it all less messy. After the call, I updated my family and close friends. Most of them didn't ask too many questions, but I could feel the weight of their disappointment, their shock. I wasn't asking for their understanding. I just needed them to know, and to know that I wasn't changing my mind. Nate, my older brother, was the one who offered to help me move out. He wasn't surprised, but he could tell how much it hurt. You don't have to do this alone, man, he said. I'll come over. I'll help. Thanks, Nate. But first, I've got one more thing to do. I went upstairs, my hands steady, but my mind was everywhere. I walked into the bedroom. Vanessa's side of the closet was still full of her things, the scent of her perfume lingering on the air. I could almost see her standing there, telling me everything would be okay. But it wasn't. It wasn't at all. I grabbed the ring. The diamonds sparkled in the dim light, still beautiful, still full of the promise I thought we'd made to each other. I hated it. Hated that it was all a lie now. I put the ring in a box, placed it on her vanity table. It felt like the right place for it. Not tucked away somewhere, hidden in shame, but out in the open, where she could see it. Just as I turned to leave the room, the phone rang again. Vanessa's parents. I already knew what this was going to be. Her dad tried to keep it together, but it was clear he was panicking. "Kyle, son, what's going on? What happened? We need to talk. Vanessa's just... she's confused. You have to give her time. She's going to come back." "Don't," I said, cutting him off. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just couldn't do it anymore. She's made her choice, and I've made mine. There was a long silence, and then her dad's voice, quieter now. "You're just going to throw away everything? After all this time?" I didn't want to hear it. "I'm not throwing it away. It's just not what I thought it was. I can't do this with her anymore. I won't." Her mom got on the phone after that, crying. She barely managed to choke out a few words, begging me to reconsider. "Kyle, please, she's not like this. She's not herself. You can't just walk away from her. From this." "I'm sorry, but I already have," I said. And I meant it. There were no more words after that. I hung up and stood there for a second, letting everything sink in. The phone calls, the canceled wedding, the ring sitting there, a symbol of everything I was walking away from. I walked downstairs and grabbed my jacket. Nate would be here soon to help me move, but I wasn't ready for that yet. I just needed a moment to feel the weight of all of it. The anger, the heartbreak, and the fact that the hardest part was still ahead. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on the emails I'd been ignoring for days, when the door to my office opened without a knock. Lexi stepped in, her arms crossed, a look on her face like she was about to scold me for something. "Lexi," I said, looking up from my screen. "What are you doing here?" "Thought we should talk," she said, voice tight, like she was holding something back. "You've been making a scene, Kyle. A huge scene." I stared at her for a second. "A scene? You're kidding, right?" She didn't back down, her eyes narrowing as she stepped further into the office. "You're acting like Vanessa did something that bad. It was just a trip, Kyle. You're being dramatic." I felt my blood pressure rise. "A trip? In Maui? That's what you're calling it?" My voice was low, controlled, but every word felt like it was punching through the air. She shrugged, like it wasn't a big deal. "It wasn't planned. Just a last-minute thing. You know how she is. She needs space. She was..." I cut her off. "Space? She's in Maui with Trent." "Lexi. Trent." Her lips pressed together in a thin line, and she stiffened. "You're making too much of it. It's not like there. Why is Trent even there, then?" I leaned forward, my hands planted on the desk. "What's the real story, Lexi?" She blinked, her eyes flicking to the side for just a fraction of a second. And in that moment, I knew. I'd hit the nerve. "What do you mean, the real story?" she asked, trying to recover. Her voice was higher now, a little too fast. I could hear the lie in her voice, the edge of panic. "I mean, you set it up, didn't you? You're the one who got them back together." For a split second, she froze. It was just a tiny flicker, an eye twitch, a hesitation before she moved. But it was enough. I wasn't imagining it. It caught her. Her jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." I stood up now, my hands balled into fists. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been trying to get Vanessa and Trent back together for months. Haven't you? All the shit about needing space, that was you, manipulating her." Her face flushed, and for a second I thought she was going to backpedal. But instead, she just shook her head. "You're wrong. You're so wrong about everything. You're the one who's making all this into something it's not." "Stop lying to me," I said, the anger I'd been holding in finally breaking loose. "This wasn't some mistake. This was planned. You made sure of it. You didn't want Vanessa with me, did you?" She recoiled like I'd slapped her, her eyes wide. You have no idea what you're talking about. I stepped closer to her, my voice low and deadly. I think I do. You've always hated me. Always. I'm the one who came between you and your little fantasy. Huh? Well, guess what? I'm done with both of you. She opened her mouth to say something, but then her face went red, and she just turned on her heel and stormed out of my office, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, trying to control the anger surging through me. The door to my office was still shaking from the impact, the noise of her footsteps fading down the hallway. I was still standing there when my phone rang. It was Danny, one of Vanessa's guy friends. I didn't even bother to check the caller ID before answering. "What's up?" I said, my voice sharp. "Yo, Kyle," Danny said, sounding hesitant. "I just wanted to let you know you were right about Lexi." I leaned against the desk, my heart thumping in my chest. "What do you mean?" "There's more to this, man. Lexi's been pushing Vanessa and Trent together for months. She's always hated you. She never thought you were good enough for Vanessa, and she's been trying to break you two up for a long time." I didn't know what to say. The words hit me like bricks, one after the other. All this time, I'd been worried about Vanessa, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. But the truth was, Lexi had been pulling the strings behind the scenes. She'd been playing this game all along. "I knew it," I muttered, more to myself than to Danny. "This wasn't random." "Nope," Danny agreed. "It's been calculated. Lexi's been trying to get Trent back in the picture for months. I don't know what her deal is, but she was working behind the scenes, trying to push Vanessa back toward him." I sank into my chair, letting the information wash over me. I thought I'd been dealing with Vanessa's betrayal, but this was something else entirely. Lexi had been the real instigator all along. "Thanks for telling me," I said, my voice tight. "Yeah, no problem," Danny replied. "I just thought you should know. Be careful, man." I hung up and stared at my phone for a while, the weight of it all sinking in. I wasn't just dealing with Vanessa's lies anymore. I was dealing with something much bigger. And now I had to decide how far I was willing to go to tear it all down. By the time Sunday night rolled around, I was beyond exhausted. Every inch of me felt drained, but there was still something gnawing at me, something that wouldn't let go. I knew she was coming home, and when that door opened, I was ready. She walked in, dragging her suitcase behind her, like everything was normal. She didn't look sorry, didn't look like she'd been off in Hawaii with her ex. Hell, she didn't even look like she'd been gone for 3 days. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, babe," she said, tossing her keys on the counter, her voice casual, like we were just picking up where we left off. I didn't respond. Couldn't. It took every ounce of control not to snap. I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked toward her. "We need to talk." She paused, a flash of confusion crossing her face, but then she nodded, her smile fading. "What's going on? You've been acting weird." She tossed a glance toward the empty space where the wedding stuff used to be. The catering brochures, the reception seating plans. All of it had been packed away, buried in the back of my closet. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice tinged with suspicion now. I didn't wait for her to finish. "No, Vanessa, everything's not okay." I didn't even care if I sounded like I was shaking, or if my voice cracked. I was done with holding it together. "The wedding's canceled. Your stuff's packed. And you need to go. Now." She blinked a few times, like she didn't understand what I was saying. What are you talking about?" Her eyes darted around the room, probably looking for some kind of explanation for the words I was saying, as if she hadn't just spent the past few days rewriting our entire relationship. I felt a rush of anger that I could barely keep in check. "I'm talking about everything, Vanessa. The trip, the lies, the fact that you're back here like nothing happened. How long were you planning on lying to me?" She looked genuinely confused, or at least she tried to look that way. "What are you talking about? It was just one bad decision. I told you it's not like that with Trent." She took a few steps closer to me, her hands moving as she tried to explain herself, her voice rising like I was the one who was misunderstanding everything. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. One bad decision? My voice was getting louder, but I didn't care anymore. That's your excuse? After everything? I stepped toward her, feeling like I was being swallowed by the weight of everything she'd done, all the trust she'd broken. You go off to Hawaii with your ex, and you don't tell me about it. You don't tell me you've been talking to him again for months. You don't tell me that he just showed up there? You think I'm stupid? You think I'd believe that? She opened her mouth to argue, but I kept going, the words coming faster now, like I was trying to beat the truth out of the silence between us. You didn't tell me about any of it, Vanessa. Not a word. You lied to me about everything. About the trip, about Trent, about us. Her face flushed, the walls going up. I needed space, she said, her voice defensive, as if I hadn't heard that excuse 100 times before. I needed to figure things out before being locked down with you. That's all. It wasn't a big deal. I shook my head, too angry to think straight. You needed space? So you thought the best way to figure things out was to reconnect with the guy you swore to me you were done with? And you think that's not a big deal? You think I'm supposed to buy that? She paused, her lips trembling. The calm facade was slipping, but she wasn't giving in. You're not being fair, Kyle. Her voice cracked a little, but she tried to steady herself. Nothing happened with Trent. Promise. It was a mistake. A mistake? Is that what you call it? Because you always say that. First, it was just one thing after another. Now it's a mistake. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to keep from losing it completely. I don't know what happened to you, but I can't do this anymore. You shattered everything. And it's not just the trip or Trent or whatever. It's everything, the lies, the broken promises. You ruined me, Vanessa. Her eyes welled up then, the tears spilling down her cheeks as she took a step back. I didn't mean to hurt you, Kyle. I didn't. Her voice was breaking now, a desperate crack in her words. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I wasn't done. Couldn't be. Sorry isn't going to fix this. You're sorry, but you never once thought about me. Not once. I pointed to the door. I'm done. I need you to leave. Don't come back until you can actually tell me the truth. She opened her mouth to say something else, but the words stuck in her throat. She wiped her tears away, sniffing, but she didn't move. I said leave. I didn't wait for a reply. She looked at me one last time, her face crumpling, before she finally nodded and walked out of the room. I didn't follow her. Couldn't. I stood there for what felt like hours, the silence pressing in on me. The door clicked behind her, and I could finally breathe again. It was done. The fallout started immediately. The texts came first. Vanessa's family, her mom, her dad, even her cousins, all sent angry, desperate messages. Her dad called me at least 5 times that night, leaving voicemail after voicemail, asking why I was doing this, why I couldn't work things out with her. I didn't reply. Couldn't. The more I read their messages, the more disgusted I felt. They didn't get it. They still didn't see what had happened. They were all just trying to protect her, like she wasn't the one who had shattered everything between us. Then my mom weighed in. She said I was making a mistake, that people make mistakes, that I needed to forgive her. I let out a laugh that was half bitter, half disbelief. Forgive her, I said to myself, pacing back and forth in my apartment. For what? For lying to me, for going behind my back with her ex, for everything? I couldn't look at my mom's message. Not yet. And then, like I needed more pressure, her dad showed up at my door on Tuesday evening. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes red, face flushed with frustration. When I opened the door, he didn't even wait. He just stepped inside, voice already shaking. Kyle, we need to talk. You're making a huge mistake. His tone wasn't pleading, not exactly, but it was close. Vanessa's been under a lot of stress. She's confused. You can't just throw everything away. You don't even know what's going on. This isn't her, Kyle. You have to understand that. I could feel the walls closing in. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I had to remind myself not to lash out. He was just as much a part of the problem as she was. I understand perfectly, I said. my voice low but steady. I'm not doing this anymore. She broke my trust, Mr. Collins. It's done. He stared at me, searching my face for any sign that I might be bluffing. But I wasn't. Please, he said, his voice breaking. Please just talk to her. Let's fix this. For the family. I shook my head. You don't get it. She's already made her choice. And now, so have I. He stood there for a moment like he didn't know where to go from there. Then, without another word, he turned and left. I stood in the doorway for a long time after that, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. It felt like everything I'd built was just crumbling, and I was the one left standing in the wreckage. That night, Nate stayed over. He said he didn't want me alone, not after everything. He didn't have to say it, but I knew why he was really here, to make sure I didn't fall apart. We spent the evening watching mindless TV, not talking about Vanessa, not talking about anything. And for the first time in days, I felt something like peace. But then I checked Instagram. Vanessa had posted something. It was an old photo of us, one of those cute couple pics we used to take. We were sitting on the hood of my car, laughing like we didn't have a care in the world. The caption read, "What could have been." I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. The hurt, the betrayal, everything hit me at once. She was still playing games, still trying to pull me back in. But I wasn't that guy anymore. Couldn't be. Nate noticed me staring at my phone. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer right away. My mind was still reeling, the words in the caption echoing in my head. But then, I exhaled slowly and put the phone down. "Yeah," I said, finally looking up at him. "I'm okay." That's when Nate made the suggestion. He said I should try therapy. "You've been through hell, man. You need to talk it out with someone who can help." At first, I resisted. I didn't think I needed it. I thought I could just tough it out, like always. But after a couple of days of sitting in the silence, the anger, the guilt, I agreed. The therapist was calm. A woman named Laura who seemed to know exactly how to get me talking without pushing too hard. "You didn't overreact," she said after we'd gone through the details. My heart still beating fast from the rush of telling her everything. "You woke up, and that's what's hard. Realizing that what you thought was your life wasn't real." I swallowed hard, feeling the sting in her words. But there was something in her voice, something validating, that made me nod. "Yeah," I said. "I'm waking up." For the first time since all of this started, I felt a shift. The sadness I'd been carrying for so long started to turn into something else. Something stronger, something more solid. It wasn't healing, not yet. But it was the beginning of something that felt like it could be. And that, for the first time in days, felt like progress. It was a few days after the therapy session when Lexi showed up at my door again. This time, though, she wasn't the confident, defiant person I remembered. She was subdued. Her shoulders were slumped, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. When I opened the door, she didn't waste any time. "I need to apologize," she said, her voice small, almost nervous. I didn't say anything, just stepped back and let her in. She'd come to talk, and part of me was curious to hear what she had to say, even if I knew it wouldn't change anything. She stood in the middle of my living room, twisting her hands together, like she was trying to find the right words. "I was jealous," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Vanessa. She had this perfect life, this perfect future with you, and I couldn't stand it. I wanted to knock her down a peg, show her that maybe she wasn't as untouchable as she thought." The words hung there, heavy and bitter, like I could taste the resentment in the air. My jaw clenched, but I didn't interrupt her. I invited Trent. I told him Vanessa was coming to Hawaii, and I told him to go to surprise her. She took a shaky breath. "I pushed them together. I knew what it would do to you. I didn't care." She paused, like she was waiting for me to yell, or scream, or throw her out. But I didn't. I just stood there, letting her talk. "I'm sorry, Kyle," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have interfered. I don't know why I did. I was selfish, but I can't take it back." I didn't know what I expected, but hearing her admit it, hearing her own the manipulation, felt worse than I thought it would, like a knife twisting deeper. I could see how much she regretted it, but I also knew it was too late. "Thank you for being honest," I said, my voice flat. It wasn't relief I felt. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was just emptiness. I couldn't make her undo it, and I couldn't change the fact that I didn't want her anywhere near my life anymore. "You're not welcome here anymore, Lexi," I said, my voice steady but final. "I don't need people who would do that to me. You're not part of my life, not anymore." She nodded, her face falling, and without another word, she turned and left. I didn't watch her go. I didn't have the energy to feel anything about it. She was just another piece of the mess I was cleaning up, and I didn't need her dragging me down any further. A week later, I was sitting on the couch, half watching a game on TV, when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something about it made me hesitate before I picked up. "Hello, it's Trent." His voice was cautious, almost apologetic. I felt a strange calm wash over me. "What do you want?" I just wanted to clear something up," he said, like he wasn't sure where to start. "I didn't know Vanessa was engaged when I showed up in Hawaii. I swear. I didn't care about the details anymore. I didn't care if he'd known or not, if anything physical had happened between them. It didn't matter. Trent, it's not about what you did. It's about what she did. What she chose to do. She made her decision, and so did I." There was a long pause on the other end, like he was waiting for me to say something more, something that would change everything. But I wasn't going to give him that. "I'm not looking for an explanation," I added, cutting him off. "I'm done. You should be, too." He sighed. "I get it, man. I'm sorry for everything." "Yeah," I said. "Me too." I hung up and sat back, letting the silence fill the room again. For the first time, it felt like I was finally able to close the door on everything. On Vanessa, on Lexi, on all of it. What happened wasn't about what anyone else thought I should do. It wasn't about fixing anything, or getting closure from people who weren't even close to the truth. It was about me deciding what was worth holding on to. And right now, that wasn't any of them. I moved into the smaller apartment across town a few weeks later. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom, some mismatched furniture, and the faint smell of paint still hanging in the air. But it was mine. No shared memories. No leftover pieces of a life that wasn't mine anymore. The walls were bare, and the space felt cold at first, like I hadn't quite settled in yet. But I knew it was the right choice. I needed to get out of the space I'd been in before, to start fresh, even if it felt like I was starting from scratch. The charity event for the animal shelter was a few weeks after that. It felt strange walking into a venue where we were supposed to be getting married, but it also felt right. I wasn't going to let that loss define me. The event raised more than $50,000 that night, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was doing something good. It was the best I could do with the wreckage of a wedding that never happened. After that night, I slowly started dating again. At first, it felt awkward. A lot of first dates that ended with a handshake or a polite hug. Nothing special. But then I met Heather. Heather was everything I hadn't realized I needed. She was grounded, curious, calm. The opposite of Vanessa in every way. When we talked, it wasn't forced. It wasn't like I was trying to fill the silence with small talk. She listened, asked questions, and seemed genuinely interested in my life. With her, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I could just be. The first time we kissed, I remember feeling like I could actually breathe. It wasn't a rushed, impulsive kiss. It was slow, easy, like it made sense in a way nothing had in a long time. And it was the first time in over a year I'd felt something like peace. Vanessa still texted me now and then, but I didn't reply. The messages came sporadically, and each time I read them, I felt nothing. She'd ask how I was doing, or send some cryptic comment about what could have been. But I didn't care anymore. I was over it. Over her. Over the game she played with my life. A year later, I got an invitation to Brielle's engagement party. My first instinct was to decline, to tell her I wasn't interested in seeing Vanessa again. But Brielle had been one of the few people who'd actually understood what had happened, who had seen through the bullshit and still cared. So I went. Heather came with me. I wasn't sure what to expect when we walked in, but I wasn't expecting the calm that hit me when I saw Vanessa standing across the room. She looked different, smaller, maybe quieter, like the confidence she used to have had been stripped away. I could see her eyes flick to me as I walked in, but she didn't say anything, just stood there, smiling politely at a group of people trying to blend into the background. We exchanged nods, just the kind you give to people you once knew but now don't. Nothing more. Heather squeezed my hand when we passed, a quiet assurance that I didn't need to worry. I didn't want to make a scene, and I didn't want to dwell on the past. I was here for Brielle, not for Vanessa. Vanessa didn't approach. Neither did I. We both knew why we were there, and we both knew the silence between us was all that was left. That night, I didn't think about her once. Not really. I focused on Heather, on the conversation we had, on the small victories of the day. When we left, I felt lighter. Maybe not completely free of everything, but closer. There was something about that night. Something about not having to chase answers or justify what had happened. As we drove home, Heather asked me if it was hard, seeing Vanessa again. I thought for a second, then shook my head. No, I said. It wasn't hard, and for the first time I meant it. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when I ran into Vanessa at the bookstore. I'd gone in just to kill time, to find something to distract me. But there she was, standing in front of the fiction section, her back to me. I would have passed her by without a second thought, but something in me made me stop. She must have felt my eyes on her because she turned around. For a second, neither of us said anything. She looked different, smaller somehow. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, and her eyes were tired. Not in a way that made her look sad, but more like the weight of time had caught up with her. "Hey," she said, voice quiet, almost unsure. "Hey," I replied, feeling the same hesitation. We stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. She took a breath and seemed to gather herself before speaking again. I just wanted to apologize, Kyle. I've been meaning to do this for a long time." Her hands twisted in front of her, like she was still trying to find the right words. "I know I can't change what happened, but I need you to know. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for everything, for us, and I didn't handle it the right way." I felt the weight of those words settle between us. She didn't ask for forgiveness, but it was clear she'd thought about this. Thought about how she'd hurt me, about how she'd dragged me through all of it. "I'm sorry, Kyle," she said again, this time looking at me directly. "You deserved better. You really did." The air between us felt thick, but I didn't feel anger. Not anymore. Just a quiet recognition of what had been and what wasn't anymore. "I appreciate you saying that," I said, my voice steady. "I'm doing okay, Vanessa. I really am." She nodded like that was the answer she needed to hear. "I hope you are," she said softly. "You deserve to be happy." I didn't say anything more. I didn't need to. The words were there, but they didn't need to be said. She turned to leave, but I caught myself just before I walked away. "Take care of yourself," I said, more for myself than for her. "You too, Kyle," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. And that was it. She walked away, and I didn't feel any regret. No longing. Nothing except the quiet relief of knowing it was over, really over. That night, as I lay in bed next to Heather, I thought about everything that had led me to this point. The heartbreak, the anger, the pain. But more than that, I thought about the person I'd become. I wasn't the guy who had put up with lies and betrayal anymore. I was someone who'd stood up for himself, who'd rebuilt his life from the ground up. I looked at Heather, asleep beside me, peaceful in the way only someone who truly trusted you could be. And I realized something. The breakup hadn't been the end. It had been the start of becoming someone I actually respected. Someone who could move on. Someone who could heal. I didn't need answers from Vanessa anymore. I didn't need closure. I already had it. And in that moment, lying there next to Heather, I finally understood that I was okay. I'd always been okay.